Hi, I'm John. Welcome back to my video channel called Less Than a Prophet, More Than a Madman. Appreciate you stopping by. This is intended to be my third video of a 3-video series talking about what Apostle Paul referenced as the grand or Great Delusion in 2 Thessalonians in the New Testament. Jesus also talked about a deception that was coming in the book of Matthew when he said that if it were possible that even the elect would be deceived. And what I tried to define in my first 2 videos is that if we're deceived, we probably don't know that we are. We believe that what we believe is accurate. That's the whole point of deception. It's to get us to believe something that we think is accurate and right. It turns out that it's neither. That's what I want to talk to you about today and try to bring to a conclusion this 3-part series. Let me start it by saying, number one, I have a confession to make that I'm not real proud of, but it's part of my past. I've been married twice. Been married to my second wife now for 20 years. I was married to my first wife for 18 years. And once upon a time in that first marriage, I lied to that wife. Told her a rather large lie. And then to support that lie, I found myself having to tell more lies. And as it usually goes with lying, it all came tumbling down, and she found out the truth and found out that I had been lying about several things. And what she said to me was very telling, and I've never forgotten it. She said, "John, how do I know when you're telling me the truth anymore? You've told me these lies, and anytime you talk now, how do I know that you're not telling me simply another lie?" It was very frustrating for me because there were times I actually told her the truth. And there were times when what I was telling her was not only the truth, but it was really important. But she was reticent to believe it because she said, "You've lied to me before. How do I know you're not lying now?" What's my point with all of this and the Great Delusion and the Great Deception? I think most of us evangelicals will admit that we've been lied to. How so? Well, we know that science lies to us. Science makes its living by saying that they state facts. I mean, as an example, if I had a table in front of me and I had 5 of different things, but 5 items, I could count them and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A mathematical equation, I suppose, and that would be a fact. And math tells us, mathematical science, and science tells us that because that's a fact, then everything else they tell us is also a fact. Really? You and I, let's be honest, we're not so sure about that one. Do we really believe that we came from a primordial soup some 4.3 billion years ago? That we crawled out on land at some point, and after that we started walking, and after that we started walking upright, and after that we eventually became monkeys, and from the monkeys we actually became humans. Not many of us evangelicals readily accept that. In fact, in my house I have a printout of over 3,000 academics, biologists, scientists, most of them not necessarily believers, who dispute that. They say that evolution is no longer a good explanation for the origin of the species. But yet, that's what we were taught, and yet that's what's still taught in school. It's taught as a fact. And if we dispute it or if we argue with it, they say that we're not very learned or educated or very smart. but yet we know that it's a lie? Do we think that the earth came and the universe came from a big bang 14 billion or so years ago? I'm not so sure about that one either. But my point is, we know that science has lied to us and continues to lie to us. So, based on my first wife's foundation, how do we really know when they're telling us the truth? How do you know when they're telling you the truth? How do you know what to believe? You don't believe in evolution, but you believe that there's probably a heliocentric design to the earth and to the universe, though there's no real proof of that. You probably believe that we went to the moon, though there's no real proof of that if you do your research. My point is simply, if they've lied about one thing, how do you know they're not lying about the other things? Our government lies to us all the time. Obviously, it's lied to us about COVID-19, and most of you know that. So how do we know when they're not lying about what's on the horizon? We know that religion lies to us. We've discussed that briefly. It does. Ultimately, and I will post this for you to take a look at, we started off in the Garden of Eden. From the Garden of Eden, man went basically to Mesopotamia, which became Babylon. From Babylon, God called Abram to Israel to found the Israelite nation, and he called him Abraham. We know that Babylon was scattered. We know that eventually when Babylon fell to the Persians, that their mystic clerics migrated to what we would call Pergamum or Pergamos. Hence, Jesus said through the pen of John, I know where you live. You live where Satan lives, Pergamos. And from there, of course, it became part of the Roman Empire. From there, it became a synthesis between the Catholic Church and the early church. And from there, we get Christianity. And that is why Christianity has so many different pagan attractions to itself. As we mentioned last week, from the steeple to the holidays that we celebrate, to the day of worship that we worship on. There's no place in the Bible that you can run to where the Sabbath day wasn't Saturday. And I get that there are explanations as to why it's okay to do it on Sunday now, even though God said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, a rather clear, simple directive, and now we have all of these reasons that it's okay to do it on Sunday. Sure, it's convenient, I get it. I was an evangelical pastor, and if I had gone to the church on Saturday to preach, no one would have shown up. So it's always best to show up on the day where the people are there. You get better offerings that way, by the way. So I get that. But we've been lied to. We've been deceived. And that's the part of the grand deception that I want to bring full circle. Yes, I'm going to look you straight in the camera and tell you, John is a conspiracy theorist. But you know what? So is Noah. He was a conspiracy theorist, and then it started to rain. You look in Revelation chapter 17, John looks and he says, behold, behold, I see a great mystery. A great mystery. Something he didn't quite understand and quite know how to explain. He said, I saw a great harlot, or riding on a beast. It would appear to be all the false religions of the world, from the beginning of Babylon all the way down to Rome, to the Catholic Church, to the modern day Catholic Church, to the modern day Christian Church. There, I've indicted everyone, okay? That way, the Catholics can't be offended, the Christians can't be offended, or you can all be offended collectively and be mad at me. But ultimately, it's all part of that great deception. And because of that great deception, that's what gives the coming system, the coming Antichrist system, its ability to fool us, because we won't see it coming. We're all dealing with the fallout of COVID-19 right now. If you have eyes to see and ears to hear, you know that this has been a ruse. You know that this has been just a way of getting us to accept doing things a certain way, 6-foot distancing, not going out, not socializing. It's wearing a mask. It's all done to get us prepared for the next step. What's that next step going to be? I personally believe it's probably going to be some type of digitalized tattoo where we will be required to carry our health records and our financial records. I believe we're going to have a financial reset. They're already talking about it. If you want to email me, I will send you videos on the coming financial reset. There's every reason to believe that is actually going to be the proverbial mark of the beast. I know that sounds kind of, well, biblical, doesn't it? Something for the far-off future. Something for our great-great-great-grandchildren to deal with, but surely not us. All I'm saying, and we will move forward from this foundation with my very next video, is that we've been deceived, and I mean that collectively. We've been deluded, and I mean that collectively. We're believing a lie. We have things on our steeples that are male genitalia, and I'm not apologizing for that. If you don't understand why I'm referencing that, click off. My videos aren't for you. But why would we be worshiping an almighty God in a building that actually has male genitalia that comes from ancient Babylon? Why? I'm asking you. I don't have to defend my position because it's a fact. You need to defend yours. It's not just okay. The passing of time from Malachi to Matthew and the grace that Jesus gave us didn't make it okay to have male genitalia on the top of your church. So rather than you looking at me and saying, you're crazy, no, I'm looking at you and asking you, directing you, defend it. Defend it. But go and do your research first. And then come back and prove it to me that it's okay. Prove to me that Christmas is actually okay. It's okay that every single year we celebrate the little bitty baby Jesus being born every year. The creator and the master of the universe, the savior of our souls. We celebrate him being a baby every year. That's mildly stupid. And again, as I've said in some of my posts, if you think that's rude of me, well, chances are you voted for a president who's much more rude than that. And by the way, I did too. And by the way, I probably will again because I don't like the choices. But I believe God is calling at least me, hopefully you, to come to terms with the truth. Because we will know the truth, the Bible says, and the truth will set us free. We have all of these pagan holidays in our worship. A pagan day of worship. And we assume that it's okay. Our intentions are good, and therefore it's okay. And like I said in my last video, if that makes it okay, then God has some explaining to do to the nation of Israel because they got sorely and severely punished for what they did. Somehow our intentions combined with grace makes paganism okay, and it doesn't. Do I understand this is difficult? Yes. Because it means we've got to relearn a lot of things. As I said last week, we have to unpack a lot of learning. I certainly had to. I certainly had to. But I began to pray, God, give me wisdom and give me discernment to see things as they are, not as the world presents them to me. It was about 2008, I was driving from downtown where I lived to my house. And in my car, I'd picked up, and in my car I had our praise and worship leader, had a small home church. And he was sitting in my car, and he said, John, I need to talk to you about something. And I said, what? He said, John, 9/11 was no accident. That was an inside job. And I had just happened to watch a video produced by the government on why 9/11 wasn't an inside job. That it was truly done by Middle Easterners from, well, the Middle East. And we were just too stupid to get caught in that situation. And I just watched that video. So as he explains that, John, this was an inside job. Our government, or some people above our government, allowed this to happen. I explained to him rather aggressively that no, he was wrong, that our government would not do that to us. Those were my words. His name was Jim, and Jim was a very patient, kind man, and he simply backed away from the discussion. He goes, okay. That stayed with me. All these years later, if that was 2008, 12 years later, I realized in some form or fashion, it was an inside job. It brought us deception. It brought us the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act has brought us the results of COVID-19. And if I could find Jim, and Jim has disappeared into the Ethernet through these years, I would simply ask for his apology and ask him to forgive me, because I was wrong and he was right. He was trying to expose me to the truth of the truth instead of this proverbial truth of the lies. You and me, we need to stop believing the lies. Is it uncomfortable? Of course it is. Would my government hurt me? I'd like to think they would not. Have they? Absolutely. Go to the Vietnam Veterans Wall and see the 58,000 names of the 58,000 soldiers who perished in vain because our government knew we couldn't win that war and chose not to win that war. A war that didn't even need to be fought. We were lied to. I want to close with this. Whether it's politics, whether it's the religion of science or the sociology of science, I'm not even sure that science truly is science anymore, or whether it's your pastor in the pulpit, all of us have been lied to. And most of us perpetuate those lies. If you've watched this entire video, I'm calling you on the carpet. You can't perpetuate those lies in good faith anymore without doing your research. If you do your research and you do all the investigating and you find out that I'm simply wrong, then God bless you. But you might just find out that we've been lied to, that it's part of the Grand Deception, the Great Deception, and that revelation is at the door. If you've listened to the whole thing through, I appreciate it. If you click down below, you can click like, you can click subscribe. There are links down below of people that you really need to be listening to. God bless you.